people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news. Ow!
Okay, we'll start with this. Reigning WBC Women's Bantamweight Champion of Mexico, Yuli Luna posted this via her social media, and it reads, "Hello everyone. I was just informed by my promoter, Promociones del Pueblo, that the possible fight against the champion, former champion they should say, Jackie Nava, will not take place as they did not accept the fight yet. I was willing to give them the chance for my championship. It was a fight I wanted to be carried out. We will continue preparing very strong and asking God for new great opportunities to arrive. Greetings and blessings for all." The saving grace for Yuli Luna. Even though this Jackie Nava fight isn't happening, which would be a fight to get some attention south of the border, there seems to have been a plan in place for Yuli Luna to take on Jackie Nava. For those not already aware, Jackie Nava was the first woman to hold a WBC title of any kind. She's like royalty south of the border and one of the pioneers, the trailblazers, the living legends in the sport of women's boxing. The aging fighter, Jackie Nava, though still capable, based on what I saw her do to Barbie Juarez late last year in October. She thoroughly outboxed her. Put simply, she outclassed her. She outclassed the very experienced Barbie Juarez, and moving forwards, there seems to have been a plan in place to match Jackie against Yuli for what is Yuli Luna's WBC title, but that plan has fallen apart, and Yuli Luna is in the market for another opponent. The saving grace for Yuli Luna is that she's campaigning in a densely populated division, a densely populated weight class. There are any number of capable fighters, talented fighters, to go around. Now that Yuli Luna is in the market for an opponent, there's any number of capable champions like herself at 118 pounds, which there are four. Yuli Luna is just one among them. Ebony Bridges, Australia's own Ebony Bridges. She's got the IBF. America's own Jamie Mitchell, newly crowned champion. She's got the WBA, and Denmark's own two-division champion, unbeaten, Dina Thorslund. Dina's got the WBL. They're unbeaten up-and-comers like Melissa Odessa, Rosalinda Rodriguez, Fatima Dudieva. The bantamweight division, the women's bantamweight division, really is a more densely populated weight class than anything you'll find north of 147 pounds, for example. There are plenty of good fights to be made, unification matches, you name it. Yuli Luna, since prying the WBC title away from Mariana Juarez in dominant fashion in late 2020, boxed 2 times last year, and she's already boxed 2 times this year, with plenty of time left to squeeze in 1 or maybe even 2 more title defenses. It all depends on who we're talking about, what kind of fighter, what kind of champion. Matchroom's own Ebony Bridges has caught the unification bug. She has stated simply she means to become this division's undisputed champion. In that way, inadvertently, Yuli Luna is in her crosshairs. She's a part of that picture. I don't know how soon we can expect Ebony to start unifying titles, and with who should we expect her to unify titles with, since there are 3 other champions at this weight, Yuli Luna among them, but it's an eventuality. If Ebony means business and she wants to become this division's undisputed champion, Yuli Luna is someone that she's going to have to fight sooner or later. I wonder that Matchroom can't enter into a co-promotional deal with Promociones del Pueblo. I wonder that Matchroom can't enter into a co-promotional deal to promote Yuli Luna, build her up, and introduce her to their subscribers, their fight fans. Get a look at her, get a look at what it is Ebony Bridges may be facing in the not-so-distant future. Yuli Luna is promoted by Pepe Gomez of Promociones del Pueblo, a Mexican-based outfit that stages a lot of cards down there, does a bit of business with ESPN Plus on this side of the border. Lest we forget, Yuli Luna's last 2 fights were featured as part of ESPN Plus broadcasts. Is it possible that Matchroom co-promote this fighter in order to introduce her to their subscribers and introduce her as a potential opponent for Ebony Bridges? Or would that be too difficult? Because the people over there at Promociones del Pueblo Pepe Gomez, they seem to have some kind of a liaison to an American audience by way of ESPN+. Would it be easier for Matchroom to pursue, say, Dina Thorsland or a unification match between Ebony and Jamie Mitchell? I just don't know. But what I do know...
I want to see Yuli Hang unified.
She's a seasoned fighter, but not an aging fighter. Yuli Hangaluna is only 28 years old, and she's already been a two-time champion. It's about time that she unified titles with one of these other fighters, these other champions, whether it's Jamie Mitchell, Ebony Bridges, or Dina Thorsland.
I heard Shannon Courtenay's not even fighting Jamie Mitchell in that rematch straight away. So why don't Matchroom make a fight between Jamie and Yuli Hang?
Shannon Courtenay's supposed to be fighting in a 6-rounder or an 8-rounder, something like that, ahead of what is supposed to be a Jamie Mitchell rematch. So in the mean-in-between time, why don't they make a fight between Jamie and Yuli Hang and let Shannon Courtenay face the winner?
Sets things up nicely for a potential Ebony Bridges fight afterwards as well.
I'm just speculating. I'm just bouncing ideas around. The news is that Yuli Hangaluna versus Jackie Nava ain't happening. So Yuli Hangaluna, this division's reigning WBC champion, is in the market for an opponent. In other news, an update on that ongoing story in reference to Leo Santa Cruz and Lee Wood per the WBA social media account. Leo Santa Cruz's team have contacted the WBA Championships Committee and indicated that he will accept the mandatory fight against Leigh Wood. More information coming soon. This isn't what most people expected. It certainly isn't what I expected. I'd sooner have expected Leo Santa Cruz to drop the title and move forward with that fight against Ray Vargas, his PBC stablemate, because that fight, like this fight, would be a title fight where there's only one alphabet title on the line. As it stands, it sounds like Leo is fighting to hang on to that WBA featherweight title at featherweight, where he hasn't boxed in 3.5 years.
News broke yesterday that Leo Santa Cruz petitioned the WBA for an exemption to the mandatory so he could unify with WBC champion Ray Vargas.
That request was rejected, and Leo is now under orders to face Leigh Wood. That doesn't necessarily mean that that order will result in an actual fight. There are a couple of ways it could break down. While Leo Santa Cruz has accepted the WBA's order in order to hang on to his featherweight title, the split.
That's something you want to pay attention to. Who's getting what percentage of the pot? Is it a 75-25 split?
In a situation where Leigh Wood stands to make more money boxing for Josh Warrington's IBF title, his Matchroom stablemate Josh Warrington, as opposed to Leo Santa Cruz, he might move in that direction. If fighting Josh for the red belt gets Leigh Wood more money than fighting for the black and gold belt, he might move in that direction. He might.
Warrington versus Wood in the UK is a bigger fight than Wood versus Santa Cruz in the US.
And per a tweet from Michael Benson, Josh Warrington, the IBF champion, he's receptive to a Leigh Wood fight.
So it still might happen.
That's one possible scenario. A scenario where Leigh Wood decides to move in the direction of Josh Warrington as opposed to Leo Santa Cruz.
Another scenario is that while Leo Santa Cruz is agreeing to this, he's agreeing to it now.
What if the two teams can't reach a deal on time? What if the two teams can't reach a deal by the deadline and a purse bid rolls around?
Do the PBC want to have to get into a bidding war with Matchroom over this fight?
A purse bid to which winning the rights to the fight may end up exceeding the fight's actual market value, and you end up overpaying for the fight. Does the PBC want to get into a situation like this? Does Matchroom?
When Matchroom can look to put Leigh Wood in there with Josh Warrington instead of paying through the nose to bring Leo over to their side of things.
In-house affair and what may end up being a cheaper alternative to trying to win the rights for Leo Santa Cruz versus Leigh Wood.
There's one or two, maybe three ways this could break down.
I feel like we'd sooner see Leigh Wood cross over to the PBC than we'd see Leo cross over to Matchroom. I just can't see that happening. Matchroom's made a lot of PBC guys offers in the last 4 years, and most of those guys, they didn't accept those offers to cross over to their side of things in spite of big cash purses, big cash fights at a time when DAZN was spending a lot of money to draw American talent to their platform. A lot of PBC fighters didn't take the bait. I think about that, and I think about Leo.
This is a slightly different situation because this is a mandated fight.
By way of the WBA, though all the same, it's hard to imagine that Leo Santa Cruz ends up crossing over to Matchroom in order to satisfy this mandatory. I'd sooner expect Leigh Wood to cross over to the PBC than for Leo to cross over to Matchroom. I don't know how this is going to end.
And I don't actually know if this order from the WBA is going to result in a fight.
And on heart, what I was expecting was for the WBA to continue to sit on their hands. I was expecting Lee Wood to get tired of all of that and end up fighting Josh Warrington on the Matchroom side of things. That's what I was expecting. This is more convoluted, more conflated. And just in keeping with the theme of news by way of the WBA, per a tweet from Michael Benson, America's ABC, Association of Boxing Commission's president, has made the following statement regarding recent allegations that third parties connected to the WBA have been receiving payments in exchange for giving fighters rankings.
This ain't sanctioning fees we're talking about, because in order to be ranked by these organizations, you have to go through the proper channels. You have to pay those sanctioning fees.
That's how it works. What we're talking about is special favors for cash incentives, i.e., bribes. We talked about this in passing in my previous video in reference to the ongoing situation with Leo Santa Cruz and Lee Wood, and how all of these orders the WBA is now issuing out are coming at a time when they could once again find themselves in hot water the same way they did last year with the Alphabet Commission.
The president of the Association of Boxing Commissions, Mike Mazzulli, had this to say.
If allegations against the WBA are proven true, the ABC will take action and will not welcome the WBA in the United States. If these allegations are true, the ABC will take drastic steps and action and will issue a press release notifying everyone that the WBA will not be welcomed in the United States. The ABC was formed by the United States federal government for reasons of fairness and safety.
Similar repercussions, a similar threat to what we saw last year, to where they wouldn't be allowed to do business in the United States.
Which could cripple them because they just so happen to do a lot of business in the United States. In a situation like that, to where the ABC Commission bars them from doing business in America, they could always look to foreign territories and other countries for their revenue stream, like the United Kingdom, parts of Europe, other parts of Europe,
Poland, Lithuania, Germany, Russia.
Though is it any real substitute for doing business in America? That has yet to be determined. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, because we're not there yet.
Court documents in association with a separate matter, a separate case, seem to indicate that certain associates with the WBA may have been bribed.
Paid under the table. Financial incentives in order for certain fighters to achieve cushy ranks in their WBA rank standings.
Most people already felt that the WBA's business practices were dubious, to say the least.
One way to put it. When a fighter like Leo Santa Cruz, for example, is allowed to hang on to a full-fledged title at a given weight, a weight where he hasn't campaigned in 3.5 years, surely something like that requires reconciliation, requires explanation, that if anybody really wanted to know and really needed evidence that perhaps something is going on at the WBA, you needn't look very far.
Because it's been there right in front of everybody the whole time.
And if the ABC Commission is once again putting the WBA in the hot seat, it's not because the evidence has been hard to find per se, it's because the WBA has created a big enough mess that it can't be ignored. Underneath it all, I think everybody knows what's been going on at the WBA. Everybody in boxing. But it took for them to make a big enough mess.
Everybody, including the ABC Commission. I don't think they were working that hard to get the WBA to straighten up their act.
It's more along the lines of the WBA shitting the bed.
They were given enough leeway that they could have continued to conduct their business practices, nefarious or otherwise, without anybody knowing.
But they got sloppy. When court documents surface indicating that certain of the WBA's associates are taking money under the table,
doing special favors for the highest bidder.
well, that requires the ABC Commission to take action.
You're not going to tell me that it took for these court documents to surface for you to realize that something's going on at the WBA.
No likelihood. They already knew something was going on. They just decided to turn a blind eye to it up until the point the WBA created a big enough mess that they can't ignore it anymore.
Has the WBA finally sealed their own fate? We'll find out.
Most fight fans don't know how to address this issue properly. Their solution is to do away with all the alphabet organizations, all the sanctioning bodies in one fell swoop. This reflects more frustration than reconciliation.
Their frustration with the sanctioning bodies.
The truth is, alphabet organizations like the WBA, the WBC, the WBO, and the IBF, They make order in the chaos that would be boxing in the absence of a hierarchy, in the absence of an actual pecking order with ranks and rank standings to distinguish the good fighters from the really good fighters and the really good fighters from the great fighters. What the sanctioning bodies, in essence, are intended to contribute to the sport is a pecking order that allows the top talent, in this instance, the best fighters, the best talent, to permeate to the top. That's the function they're supposed to perform. And where issues like this arise is
stuff like this happens when they're not doing their job.
You look at the ongoing situation with Leo Santa Cruz at featherweight, and that's a situation that's created by a sanctioning body that is willfully sitting on its hands instead of doing its job. What they should have done with Leo Santa Cruz, the moment he won a WBA super featherweight title, was put that guy on the spot. Put him on the spot and ask him, which title do you want to keep? Because you can't keep both. You can't hang on to a featherweight title while you're campaigning as a super featherweight champion. That's what the WBO does. They don't allow any of their belt holders to hold alphabet titles at other weights to prevent situations like this from happening.
The Leo Santa Cruz situation is the kind of situation that happens when a sanctioning body ain't doing their job.
So what you then have to ask yourself is, well, why aren't you doing your job? Is someone paying you to give Leo Santa Cruz special exemption that perhaps some other fighter might not be getting, some other champion? Are you being paid under the table to allow that guy to hold on to that belt the way
court documents indicate that certain WBA officials may have been receiving bribes so that fighters can achieve certain ranks?
So could those same WBA officials have been receiving bribes in order to give certain fighters that are with certain promotional outfits certain exemptions?
Well, I wouldn't rule it out.
I reiterate, it's not that the sport of boxing should do away with sanctioning bodies. It's that sanctioning bodies should perform the function they're intended to perform, devoid of special treatment and special exemptions. For whatever reason, said exemptions are issued out. It's not that boxing doesn't need alphabet organizations or sanctioning bodies. It's that those sanctioning bodies need to do their job.
Bottom line.
Without sanctioning bodies to give order to the chaos, to give the sport a pecking order, and the thousands upon thousands upon thousands of fighters hailing from all four corners of the world, without sanctioning bodies to make sense of all of this, it wouldn't be a sport at all. It'd be pure chaos.
You know, the only reason Errol Spence Jr. got his first title, his title shot, was because of an order from the IBF.
Ordering Kell Brook to satisfy him as his mandatory challenger or surrender his IBF title. At that time, Errol was a guy who anybody with a name and anyone with any name value, they didn't want anything to do with him. The same rings true here today for Jaron Boots Ennis.
That guy's a high-risk, low-reward guy.
This is where the sanctioning bodies perform their essential function. It's not that boxing doesn't need them, it's that they need to do their job.